Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's episode. The title is Advancing Methodologies for Potential Interdimensional Contact. And I thought about speaking really about what other ways of communication can our species have, and if we realize we're not alone, what that could mean in two ways. What an advanced methodology is a methodology that has history. You can consider that just like genetics passes down from generation to generation, methods are passed down. Now we have noticed that there has been an evolutionary advantage in how we have advanced on a genetical level. Now, as the human being advances, the methods the human being uses to be human advance. That means anytime we have an evolving creature, we have in nature, we have a natural updating system. And that system ultimately is using a method. That means if you had a bunch of people on an island, they would all use a method to survive. You know, and if you have 8 billion human beings on a cosmic island, on a galactic island, guess what we are doing here? We're all looking for methods. You know, I feel that if religion was called the religious method, secular audiences and scientists wouldn't have an air with it. In the sense that it is a method, just like the scientific method. Everything, I don't know if this is the proper, if I can use this term in this context, but everything has a pathology to it, right? Even this cat looking at things. It doesn't have the complexity of the human identity, human ideology. You know, this cat may listen to, you know, endless lectures on YouTube and be like, what am I hearing? The idea is that our species is going to advance whether we like it or not, it will. It's just that now we get to choose what method we adopt. The methods in this world we have found have been out of fear, mainly. And this fear is the fear of the unknown, the biggest fear. That means anybody on this planet, I would tell you, if you don't know what's going to happen, let's say the person, I don't know, is afraid of eagles, or is afraid of, I don't know, is afraid of dinosaurs. Let's say the person is afraid of bears, okay? And it's like seeing a bear and bearing it. Honestly, what can I say? We are creatures that implement the strategies of our perception. I feel that instead of people having truths or thoughts that are them, we are passing through various states of being, where in some of these states we are a thought. You know, we only need a method as long as there is someone to use it, and as long as there's something unknown. That means most people who fear the unknown, they don't realize it. Without the unknown, the meaning of life goes away. This can happen for anyone who wants to have a sharp intellect without realizing emotional stability of the heart's decency is more powerful. A person sees the bear that they're afraid of, for example, and when they see this bear, their response will inevitably be some sort of method. That means a scared person, a courageous person, a weak person, a strong person, all are implementing methods. But their methods have two factors of accuracy and inefficiency. That means there's been many times, this was especially when I was younger, it hasn't been for a while, but there were times where I would, for the sake of the rationality of the moment, not be considerate of how others were emotionally creating themselves, generating themselves in the moment. You see, when it comes to precision, it's all reference. You know, I am telling you, we have universities that want to give us knowledge of the universe, but the hilarious thing is the university is a small part of the universe. And so its methods are small. And I'm not saying universities are incredible progress, but the reform that we need to advance civilization to its next level is a return to the unknown and a witnessing of the unknown without judgment. Very few people, I feel, in this plane of existence can let the unknown be unknown. Very few people. And this doesn't mean I'm included. I'm a person who I've decided to march into the unknown in this life. Because eventually after the life, the person will march into the unknown. The unknown is the only thing that you can't study for, and it will happen. It's like the exam of the universe, where we are known characters, known actors in a giant elemental existential stage. So, methodologies not only will advance, they now have the opportunity to collectively and consciously advance. You see, I have seen a group of bees defend a beehive. I have seen a bunch of ants move like a giant leaf. And what that tells me is that nature is in union before its separation. You see, that's the advantage of minds. You see the difference between the kingdoms of the mind and the kingdoms of the body, I would say. The kingdoms of the body, at best, they are a waiting zone for your mind. That means if a person just goes towards power in this realm, you will become someone who will wait. You know why? Because a person gets bored of their own power. Yes, I said it. You can get bored of your ability. And therefore this world is so incredibly designed that from a first person point of view, it's not natural to have the self, you know? That means it's like our eyes are first person point of view, but we say I am, right? But the eyes, if we really look at what our eyes are, they're a moment of sight. They are the moment of sight. That's the phenomenal thing. Anyways, all of this is for me to say that from methods of fear, we have to literally stop naming our fear and see what it is, really. But we got to do this on a collective level. On a collective level means for one moment, can you imagine? It's one of the most advanced things. It is something that I would say, if the human being achieves this, if humanity if our species matures to the point where it is like, oh, human beings no longer fight and no longer try to save. The only thing left is really for attention just go to its greater classroom. That's it. Honestly, nature is a room. But it's a room we're being first before we are in. So if we want to advance methodologies, it's wondering as if one foot of the method, where is it, and where is the other foot of the method going? As if like the methodology is walking up a staircase. So one foot is in the past and how it began, the other foot is on how it's going into the future. So in order to advance methodologies, we have to be conscious of how one foot is in the past and one foot is in the future. Now, where is that future, like where is our foot going after the first step, the second step of our methods in this realm, right? They're going to the potential of our event, right? So we are like part of a universal event. Then we're like a part of this universal event, conscious that it could start and set into motion endless mini events in this massive universal event. That means in an unknown existential event, there is a known conscious individual event. And inside that known conscious individual event, we are noticing the inseparability between the universal activity and the individual's activity. Dear listeners, it doesn't matter what you are. I am telling you, our species has not realized that the mind is unconditional to the body. What that means is nature has designed itself in a way where its mind will have to leave before the body can. So technically the mind doesn't die, it leaves life through the body. It leaves the life of the body. So we advance methods for the future potential. And now we get to the interdimensional contact part. Let me see. How can I explain the interdimensional? Imagine you were a universe, and then imagine you forgot you were the universe. And then imagine you thought you were a galaxy, and then you forgot that you were a galaxy, and you thought you were a solar system. Then you forgot you were the solar system, you became a planet. Then you forgot you were the planet, you became a person. Then you forgot you were a person, and you became stillness itself. Interdimensional means based on how you consider one dimension being multiple and how you consider multiple dimensions being singular. I personally, probably people have noticed by now, I do this. I jump between that which it makes sense in a multidimensional view and then that which makes sense in a singular view. And why do I do that? Because really there is nowhere else to go. That means, think about it. Any idea is a form. This form or concept has content. The content has to be relevant to some dimensional image. So the content of a concept is the suggestion of hidden reality. In the same sense where, let's say there was this show called Shingeki no Kyojin. In it, there were characters who had never seen the sea. They didn't even know something like a sea existed, right? And when they suddenly saw the sea exist, it's as if what was just words, what was just fiction, instantly became non-fiction. It is a choice to participate in the era of advanced communication. I am telling you, it is a choice to be here in this realm. And people who forget their choice before they were born, before they were before they were born, let me tell you, ungratefulness for a multidimensional being is not realizing to be absolute or ultimate in the infinite sense is its birthright. That means the moment they told us we are temporary beings was the moment they said don't press that button, and every person was like, wait a minute, am I temporary? And questions just arose. You know, sometimes this life is so remarkable, I'll be honest, like aside from how it looks like, it's as if everything has code. It's as if the soul is a programmer, the mind is the program, and what's or let me say it this way, the body is the program, the mind is the code, and the soul is the programmer, imagine, right? So imagine right now as I'm speaking, my mind, this is code. Literally, if there was some hard, let's say, like matrix, like a computer screen, you would see like, codes. Imagine language. So in the same way that machines are coded into service in the outer realms, children are raised. They are coded by the language of the environment and everything they see. And also the cool thing about being human is that you get to reinterpret any code at any time if you realize you're free, because freedom has to do with will. That means if there is no effort from the inner realms to the outer realms, I mean, like, what freedom? Let me tell you what I'm trying to make sure our species bypasses, a sort of phase in communication, where let me tell you what I feel 2020 has become. 2020, imagine there's some person, let's call this random person Z, okay? And person Z suddenly has their house is on fire. And they come outside Actually, guys, let me start the story from a different point of view. Imagine, I mean, honestly, this is the view. Bunch of people representing human beings in society, okay? And then there's a person, imagine this person Z has a burning house. Person Z comes out and says, hey people, you know, this house is burning. Help me put it down, right? And people are as if they're coming to this burning house, and instead of participating in the human event, which is the opportunity, which is a universally rare opportunity, it's as if people are like, hey man, the burning house is in your mind, you know, just come to the here and now. You know, if people truly came to the here and now, they would be shocked. They wouldn't feel peace. I'm telling you, if you truly in the outer realms came here and now, there is a horror. I will tell you, history is horrific. But it doesn't mean that's the only phase of it. Imagine waking up on this planet and realizing that long ago people worshipped objects. Literally, there was the whole point was find the shiny thing and touch it, and that was like reunion with the god, you know. You know. But then, what did it go on after objects? It went on to subject worship. And imagine you realized from idol worship till now has been ideal worship only. So what does that mean? That means we are on the program level. We are living like programs. We're not living like programmers. And when a person stops being a programmer of their own program, well, you know, that's when the world moves you. Maybe I should share my strategy as a being to what I would do if this world had no people in it. If there was no people in this world, if there was nothing, no one to communicate to, and if I was, let's say, I'm thinking right now, if I was just alone in a universe this big and so many unknown variables, just staring at an unknown landscape, I would most likely transcend movement. That means when you're alone, there's no need to move. Believe it or not. That means to the self, at the same amount, it's like, there was this movie called Stranger Than Fiction. The character like sacrifices himself to save this kid, this kid like passing the street from a bus. And so there was a sort of sacrifice of self-worth for other worth, or for the worth of others. And I feel this is a very deep thing ingrained in just human evolutionary psychology. You know, that I am telling you, we had to depend on the tribe. We had to depend on others. And then now we have built a civilization where, strangely, it's like it's easier to love yourself than your world. Do you believe that? When you are a part of your world, you know? every person's heart of hearts will give them a sermon at some point. A silent sermon. The Buddha was known to give a silent sermon. And I'm not even joking. Like, people are like, what's a silent sermon? That's a paradox. But it's not. Buddha, he holds this flower in this town, and all his disciples are like, I don't know, sitting in front of him. And Buddha's holding a flower in his hand, and he's just staring at the flower and he's smiling. As if look at how simple it is. Now all the disciples of Buddha are standing there. They're like, holy shit, Buddha's giving a silent sermon. We gotta listen. Oh my god. Okay, so he's being silent. We gotta be silent. And they're all trying to act like, you know, as if like how businessmen before a business meeting, they would fix their ties and their suit. Do you know? It's as if these disciples of Buddha, they're like, oh my god, Buddha's giving a sermon. Come on, guys, get your act together. Everybody, they're all sitting like silent monks. Now, the idea is, this is a story. This is a legitimate story that happened to the Buddha. And so when the Buddha is doing this, all the disciples are super strict and just frustrated and trying to just like, oh my god, why can't we hear this sermon? You know, they're trying to hear the sermon. They're actually trying to hear an actual sermon. And then there's this old guy, I forget his name, but his name is etched in history. This old guy comes and sees Buddha is holding this flower. Bunch of these guys are standing looking at Buddha holding a flower. And this old man looks at this and just smiles. And what ends up happening is that he becomes known as the only one who heard Buddha's silent sermon. That it was not in words, his nature is here. That means I am using words to talk about something that is here before the words were. Remarkable. Can you imagine? It's like this cool cat is like finished his is like at the end of this cool mystical cat, let's say, is at the end of its 9th lifetime, right? And then let's say it's friends with a other, I don't know, bird. The bird comes to the cat and says, your 9 lives have finished. What will you do now? You're done. And the cat looks at the bird and says, that was the first 9. You know, it's like, it's hilarious, but this cat in this picture has understood, I'll be honest, is living more in accordance to the decency of its nature, is living in a way where it's ahead of, it's like a test, like human beings can learn from cats. I'm telling you. Animals and nature, they don't have an ego because it's as if they're not designed to play the game of selfhood. We are the only unique creature in nature who's like, oh my god, we're here. Anyways, back to the interdimensional contact. See, the idea of contact, or you can see it as communication, means there is one common point between dimensions. So contact is another way of saying we need to find a portal, or I would say a portal room. Literally imagine like a portal, but now imagine the portal being 3D, being a 3-dimensional room. Like the whole room is the portal, right? So imagine there were like 3 rooms, like a line, and then there was a room in the middle. Imagine that middle room being a portal, being the whole portal, being the division between both two. That means we have, okay, let's say 3 rooms, like, and there's doors between each room, so it's like a line again. I mean, I think I've painted the picture enough. Pretty much I'm saying that imagine a portal room. Imagine a true portal room would be endless portals faced against one another. So the person, by going in one portal, suddenly experiences traveling through, let's say, 20,000 portals, because they're all stacked together, being a giant room of a portal. Like a stack of paper, but they're portals. Imagine. So communication either is self-communication or it's world communication, or it is being communication. I saw a dash in between, but the audience doesn't have to. Between being and communication. Excuse me. Excuse me. Interdimensional, let me just start from it. Interdimensional means between the dimensions, right? Multidimensionality is multiple dimensions. We can say interdimensionality is a type of multidimensionality. It's a multidimensionality where it is a communication between multiple senses of self. Think of like parallel universe football league. Imagine it's like in the future there's a football team, and it's like all the people on that football team are just a person's parallel senses of self from different timelines. Imagine. Interdimensional contact could imply that if you want to understand another world, another sense of self, or if we want to see another dimension, another world, that means it has to be a communication from one self in one room and the self in another room. Now, the only way this communication can occur is if there's one thing in this dimension that is common in other dimensions. Then that moment becomes multidimensional. What that means is, I'll give you an example. Imagine we have three parallel realities. Parallel reality A, parallel reality B, parallel reality C. Right now I'm holding a Srimad Bhagavad Gita book in my hand. Okay? So this book is imagined in reality A, parallel universal reality A. Okay? So in the first parallel universe, there is a Bhagavad Gita. Now imagine in the second one, set in parallel universe B, there isn't a Bhagavad Gita in my hand. And imagine in parallel universe C, there is a Bhagavad Gita, but it's not in my hand, it's on a shelf. So, if I was to in parallel universe A, if I suddenly held this Srimad Bhagavad Gita in my hand, okay, and I suddenly finish reading it, I might suddenly feel like putting it back on the shelf. You see, that would be indirect, subconscious, interdimensional communication. People are like, what are you talking about? And exactly something that's very hard to talk about. So in parallel universe A, the person would suddenly get access to a pattern in parallel universe C, right? Or if the person in parallel universe A tunes into parallel universe B, they might be like, I don't need to hold this book. You know, they put it away. And this is just for example's sake, just to say that if we echo, if there's echoes, it perfectly makes sense that parallel universes are the echoes of reality. You know, there was a sentence in the movie Gladiator, which I feel a lot of people, that sentence, because it was really early in the movie, I don't think a lot of people caught it. But Maximus is like this general in ancient Greece or whatever. He's pretty much he's given a speech to his cavalrymen to go into battle, and he says, "What we do in life echoes in eternity," and this explains why honor made sense. You know, regardless of the, I would say, the ignorance of ancient ideological systems, but still, it's about just like, it's like a group of people are like a mini culture inside a culture. So they have the honor of the room they're standing in, you know. Now we need to bring back a system of honor for being universal somehow. There was something that Buckminster Fuller said. He said the universe man, and he didn't say it like that. He said it, the universe man, the universal man. Eventually that time will come, and when we become universal, we will not, it will be so easy to be global because we're trying so hard to be universal. Being global is a piece of cake, right? But now, because we're trying to be global, you know, being nationalistic is a piece of cake. If we attempted, I'm telling you, if human beings on this planet started to live as if the universe was their living room, and it was the grandest living room where their species is standing in, I'm telling you, what else can we hold? What else can the person identify? The person, sorry, I'm getting a bit intense here. We identify with objects and we're like, great, I'm a body, I'm a biological body, well, this is gonna end, you know, and then you identify with a mind and you're like, oh my God, this is endless thoughts come and go, you know? And so the person is really left in the grand mystery. I can't emphasize this, that life is passing us and we're not seeing it, you know? Because if we had seen it, we'd care to advance it. I saw this video, it was on a YouTube compilation, and it was just showing people doing kind things, and it showed this guy in this stormy, weathery situation. This old lady's crossing the road, and the guy parks his car to make sure no other cars coming from behind him, and goes and assists the lady, the very old lady, to cross the street, you know. That's universal. That's a universal being. As if the efficiency of the moment occurring in the universe was more important than how we occur to ourselves.
This is the story of the cult figure.
Oh my God. To continue, what else can I do? We're a self in a world, we're a world in a self. To advance a method means to advance an approach. Advancement means it's not the same as before, so technically we need an approach that is not the same as before. If we have an approach that is not the same as before, it gives us a new view of that dimension. So wondering about two different views of the same dimension, it's as if like wondering about an artwork in two people's minds. When two people look at an artwork, how it means two different things. Now imagine if they were one person though. You know, imagine one day the person comes and sees the artwork and they like it, and tomorrow they come and they see the artwork and they don't like it. And someone comes and asks the person the third day, hey man, do you like this artwork? Do you not like it? And the person can't tell. So I am telling you, the more relationships we have, the more of a relationship we have with the same thing over and over, we transform it, right? And I think this is the mind-boggling thing about even the idea of relationships and monogamous relationships, that it's as if it's two chemicals. These two chemicals interact, therefore generating a third chemical never seen before. And the interesting thing is, in a chemical reaction, the chemicals are they're changed forever. You know, so this life is not designed for us to even hold on to our memories. Our memories may be allowing us to survive, but memory is not the final curtain. I had a math teacher in when I was in middle school, and he shared with me a story that had a life-changing impression on me. And he shared the story of how in Iran, this was in Iran, and in Iran they have to do this test, this really hard test to pass to go to universities or something. And so, sorry, I don't know if it was a test for university, but anyways, this math teacher of mine, pretty much he had a what do you call it? He had this very important physics exam. Very important physics exam that he hadn't studied for, and he was cramming, and he was telling me, and he said he went and he realized, what can I do? This exam's tomorrow, I haven't studied, but he has all the stuff that he can study. And so he decides to spend all his time trying to solve the most complex problem on that exam, right? And so he spends all night trying to solve this incredibly complex problem, and by learning the most complex thing, he automatically had to learn all the other things. And he said he went to that exam, even though it was cramped, he had made himself understand the most complex part of that exam. And in Iran, it's like instead of 100, it's out of 20. So it's like instead of getting 100%, he got 19 point something out of 20. But anyways, the idea was attempting the most complex thing, the most ultimate strategy, attempting it. And when we attempt it, everything else becomes easier. When fear of self goes away, and that turns into love of self, not self-obsession, love of self. That means the person is loving being a self. And therefore they can be a loving self to others. So fear of the self opens up, advances self-communication. Fear of the world, if that turns into love of the world, the person's like, why have I been afraid of this? This is my universe. This existence is here for me to see, touch, to build, to invent, you know? So once the fear of self goes away, the being can communicate to any kind of self. Once the fear of the world goes away, you can communicate to any kind of world. You can be in any kind of world. I often have moments where it depends like the sense of the moment. But I can translate, just like how a person can look at a tree and see it be all atomic structure. See it as like the halls of lattice, and they could just pretty much see the structure, how it could all be atoms, how they're all particles, you know, atomic particles, right? So that's like, I looked at a tree, it translated into particles. Now I'm saying, imagine, it's like you can look at anything and it can have a geometrical instant emotional value. That means, I am telling you, this concept, I think I may be the first person to bring it up, but shapes have emotion. Geometric shapes have emotion, but their emotion is just an, what's the term? It's anonymous movement. So the more anonymous, it's like you can say straight lines in nature are like the enlightened beings, you know? They're the enlightened, are like endlessly spiraling, you know, what is this karma, you know? Until the person realizes what they're a part of. That means in a society of squares, it is very hard to remember yourself as a cube. And this is the interdimensional thing where it's like different planes of the cube are being the higher dimension. So we can say, let's say somebody communicates to something in the higher dimensions. I will bet on the void. That any person on this planet in history who's had any sort of communication with some interdimensional, theosophical, esoteric, whatever, shamanic view of creaturehood, that all that creature could tell it was that I am being your whole world right now. Because that is the honesty, right? That's the honesty of the higher dimensions. You see, you can say, when the more temporary we are, the more reasons you can justify being cruel and dishonest to survive. You'll be like, yeah, this is a messed up world. The moment you accept that, then life becomes messed up. Once the fear of the world goes away, there is being. So being a self is a type of being. Being the world is a type of being. And we can say there is raw being, at least in my interpretation of Maha. The Pure Lands are a moment where the being is unmistaken as energy and attention to itself. The interdimensional can only tell you that what you see of it is you. But if the being has the maturity to understand why the interdimensional inner realm phenomena moves that way, let me tell you, it's as if the person's like, what is truth? And then wondering about what is before the question was asked, what is the state of mind that is even being before we do anything to find anything? That was the true mystic's calling, that in a world where everything was based on, our progress was based on movement and noise, the mystic was like, I will sit and be still for like 10 minutes. There was this documentary called Buddha Boy or something, and there was this kid, I think in India somewhere, Philippines, India, I don't know where, but there was this kid, maybe it was in Tibet, I don't know, like there was this kid who for years he had gone around this tree, this sacred tree, and every day he had made prayers and had made japa, I think they call it. Like he pretty much for 2 years, I think he said it was in the documentary, for 2 years he had offered blessings and had shared moments of sincere divinity around this tree. Then this kid had sat under this tree and legit gone into samadhi, where for months he hadn't got up. And he was just there, and his body was there to a point where even like there were people around him, monks were coming around, and there was like a closed area around him where this guy's just meditating, and people are like treated as a sacred site or something, you know? pretty cool because at the end people get too close and the brother of the guy comes and saves his kind of like brother in samadhi and wakes up his brother and takes him out of there, out of his samadhi, I think. And then this Buddha boy gives a speech and something, but there was something there where I'm telling you, it was as if his eyes had noticed not where they came from anymore. That game had stopped and playing. Right? Once you know what you are, your work begins. If you don't know what you are, your work is to know who you are. It's the general thing pretty much all the sages have said to people. You know, the person's like, what is wisdom? The person's like, just figure out who you are, man. Nobody knows. The day the species realizes the periodic table isn't our master, we will find the master within. Can you envision the day where human beings have suddenly realized how advanced they are? And so all of nature, all the animals, you know, even, let us say poetically, the gods peeping from the walls. You know, the gods in the walls, this was an expression. There's gods in the walls. Humanity's wrath. There was no longer pain or suffering. Everybody was treated as a tourist in the space-time continuum. And honestly, that's all we can feel like when we speak, a tour guide for the moment. You see, there's some people who try to be a loving self, but their psychology is considered the world not deserving of love. Now, there's some people who they're like, the world deserves love, so whatever they think gets bypassed by what they feel is the greater vitality of the realm. By the way, I'm going to ask the listeners, is my voice cutting on and off? If you are wise, you become you befriend nature as soon as you can. You befriend its simplicity. It's a strange power. I don't know what it is. There's something about a human being that once the being just truly is rooted in the presence of the observer, and there is no doubt the person is left with what they have chosen. That means so far the story of human evolution is like there's more stuff to sense. A humanity that just cares to see what its advancement would be like. I mean, what purpose can life have? We're self-expressive creatures in a world that's already expressing itself in accordance to laws that we can't even understand. A percentage of the population are treating these laws as if they have a personality beyond the dimension. A percentage of the population are not considering this. All human beings are starting from their inner realms as if everybody's starting from the room they were raised in, and then they have to, like, that means the person, every person has to, whatever they're looking at that they think is truth, you got to realize that's a room. In that room, yes, that is truth, right? In the under the shower, it is true. It is my truth that I am like a rock star, you know. But do you see? It's in that room. It's in that moment. It's in that time. You know, the Japanese had a saying. They would say, "The man is the room he's in." Right. So if you're a person in your inner realms, you're in an angry room. That's the kind of person you are. Right? If you're a person in your inner realms, you're cruel, but in the outer realms, you're acting nice. That it leaks out. You know. And advanced humanity doesn't care for the word fear anymore. Like, it is there, of course. It's information at best. You know. That means it's as if for some people, they ask them, how do you handle your fears? They're like, hey man, the same way you read a newspaper. You just turn the page and you read it. You see what the information is, then allow emotions to animate your person. Right? That's the thing that's missing. Before we act, before we observe, rather than act, it's as if the energy has, like the attention has time to move with the elegance or its own cadence, you know, its own presence. Anyways, the interdimensional means ultimately everything is in one dimension, and it's the relationship of different parts, right? So we have a circle, oh my god, look at that oneness. Then we draw lines in it, oh my god, look at that duality, we draw one line in it. Then we draw a bunch of lines in it, oh my god, look at this multidimensional infinite possibility of endless ways to put the world through an axis or a filter to make it into another kind of one, right? So we are ultimately just the presence of energy in accordance to a biological filter. That means it's like, well, my words right now, they're not just from my inner realms. Like, it's like my biology is part of it. You know, my tone is, you know, that has to do with me, the biological being. Like the biology of the being. My mind, I can fathom it as the center of the circle, and every day waking up, it's still the same mind. You know, it's like it's still the same unknown watcher, right? The unknown hasn't changed. It's the known that changes. That means the moment the person is fascinated by the unknown more than the known, for them watching the known change isn't. It becomes like 2D. watching the unknown changes like 3D, for example. We are all characters in the story of human evolution. We are living at a time where there is more ignorance than clarity. A percentage of maybe 63% ignorance and 37% clarity. Once the species, through multidimensional strategic care, once every individual realizes the possibility that it is not one in the many, it's many being one. That means the concept of the word special, the word fear, these words are not going to exist in the future. We are honestly present in a universal mystery. All human beings require to experience in this realm service and being served. Allow yourself to serve the world. This algorithm has no other choice in a cause and effect manner to repeat, where the world will begin serving man. Imagine there was a giant coliseum around the planet Earth And this Colosseum went endless, as big as the sky, as far as the sky can be fathomed. And in this Colosseum, imagine there were beings from interdimensional, all types of multidimensionalism. Just every being in this universe is watching. And so now it's the human performance in the eyes of the hidden celestial. In the eyes of the hidden and the celestial. So you see, it's as if this is the strategy. This is the strategy where from me, we're going to meow. I wanted to say now, and then it was like, you know, meow, but the N is right after the M and the N is silent. Responsibility of building oneself to oneself in the inner realms and walking with what is being built in the outer realms. The strategic response to the outer realms is efficiency and backup systems. That's it. Exploration and efficient backup systems. That's it. I don't know what else we can really do here. Think of the advanced civilization as the ultimate backup system. Once that is, it opens its eyes. Once an advanced civilization opens its eyes, and humanity no longer fears the archaic revival of the legend of the castles in the clouds. We are being human, but to the outer realms, to ourselves, we are a first-person mystery window. We're like a mid-screen. We're literally like an elemental character in a video game. And this character in a video game touches everything. Oh my God, this is real. My body is real. This is an object. I'm an object. You know, the character is realizing the pixel-verse, the pixel universe, right? But who is watching that screen? And what is moving the character is using a technology which the character is generated in, but it is not the technology. As if we are inside a universal game engine where the character, as it takes a step into that hollow realm, it projects its own world to create land to move in. As if, like, have you seen in some video game companies, you see it, it's like the character creates an endless map. Wherever the character goes, the pattern repeats. Like the world is built around the character, so technically there is all the game designers need to do is just put the character in a bubble and create everything in that bubble to the character. So wherever the character like thinks is going to the other side of the map, but the character has never moved, technically, in the video game. Because it doesn't exist to that higher dimensional observer, right? So considered. So let's say we are 8 billion unknown, intelligence in the universe that has logged in. We have logged into our account in this giant, multiplayer, virtual, like a multiplayer existential game, you know. online multiplayer games, it's like those. So it's as if we've all logged in to elemental humanism. And so people are like, what do? Do we just experience our own desires? Does the animal just bite fruit and taste just search for new tastes, or do we build like farms? So you see, eventually the mind will look at the space and it's like, what else can I do? What else can I do? Again, like the character in the video game wondering about all the other ways it can move, right? But if the character in the video game knew that it was actually in a higher dimensional, like a being beyond time, playing in time, okay, maybe I need to explain this to the viewers in the chat section. Guys, most people think that when a person speaks, it's like a linearity to what they say. But some people, they realize it's like painting, right? And so when a person truly paints, they implement this sort of freedom of starting from different parts of the canvas. As if you draw one part of the canvas, you go to the other part, and eventually there comes a point where you're making those brush strokes that are connecting the in-betweens, right? The world has no obligation to make sense to us, but we have an obligation to make sense of it for ourselves. The greatest strategy I have found is that when I look at something, that is the information or the understanding of that thing in that moment. And the more moments you look at something, the more angles you see of it, right? And of course, guys, the themes are, the more universal it becomes, the more less we can say about it, That means a universal being has way less to talk about than a local, local being, a localized being in like a nation or a personality or whatnot. If we realize the inner realms is space and space is potential for movement, then we can say that the inner realms is the way we move it's the way we move, it's the way the world moves, I would say. Alright, I'll turn off the music. Maybe it's better for the audience. every human being is a way that the world is happening, is a dimension to the world that nobody knows about. And how many people have looked at this world deeply, but never shared it? Isn't that incredible? That we had to endure silent lives where there would be no echo of what we were. Everything is the relationship of a self and a world. So it's like the person feeling they're the world, and then suddenly feeling they're a self, then feeling they're a world, feeling a self. It's like, how many deja vus do you want? You know? Technically, every day is a deja vu of the day before, what we wanted to do in the day before. So if you imagine something, let's say yesterday, and the next day you came and you suddenly spontaneously imagined that thing, you'd be like, oh my God, deja vu. But there is something about it. I'll tell you that I feel there is also this possibility that the mind's life is much faster and much more timeless than we can fathom. That means as if our mind has lived ahead of our body. Imagine your mind was 2 weeks ahead of your body. Or I shouldn't even say mind, let's say the consciousness. The consciousness was ahead of its, let's say, unknown mind. That's better. The unknown mind had tried to fathom. That means imagine human beings, our intelligence is so advanced that it is already trying to figure out how it's going to die, you know, subconsciously. Just like a person is aware of their surroundings, you know, in their peripheral vision, it's like imagine the mind, the psychology in the inner realms, in the inner peripheral vision. It's as if the ideological creature is like, okay, I got, what do I do? Do I jump out of this body as this thought? Do I let go of the thought I am? Do you know what is the approach here, right? And when it comes to non-dualism, I mean, it's as if like you get deja vus until you realize the self and the world have nothing to do with time. Time is something to do that man has. Time is man's notion. The universe doesn't play with time in the way our attention does, you know, because time is really unnecessary to create unless it has happened. That means it's as if it's like it's either one giant now event, or it's like, oh man, look at that year, you know, it's like we spectrumize it in time. It's like we had the time to create the word time and the concept time, and then to culturally integrate it, and then to have an ability to have strategy. I mean, like the only question, like here's the thought. Let's say a person wonders, what's the best kind of work I can do on this planet? Honestly. Let's say whoever you are, let's say we got everybody on the planet out of poverty, and they were above like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, above the physiological needs to live. Then the mind would have to say, okay, my greatest work, if the whole species is playing this game of continuity, you know, genetical continuity, is something that continues. That means our work, its value is in its continuity factor and its efficiency, right? You can say, for me, a person, let's say you're an evil dictator of some country, right? And you suddenly realize the people of the nation are like, hey man, stop this, right? But the dictator's not hearing it, imagine. So the dictator of that nation, after some point, has to be like, what am I doing? You know, like that moment has to come. where their eyes let go of the power gains in the inner realms. That means it's as if it's like first you gotta become a fool in your outer realms. Then you're like, okay, I experienced the edge of the bottom of the system. Now the only place left in the outer realms is to go to the top. That means in anyone who, the moment they accept, sincerely, they accept, it's that they are their foolishness and accept it. I don't know how to say. We are free when in the inner realms there isn't a clash of forces. I'll tell you this, imagine the brain is a projective space where in that space we are a bundle of thoughts. Now as this bundle of thoughts, okay, this bundle of thoughts is wondering which thought am I, and check this out. Let's say the person wakes up and they're like, yeah, great day, I'm a great self, you know, and they go into the world, they open the door and run into the world, you know, it's a great day, right? Now in that great day, let's say somebody comes and says, hey man, this is not great, this is not great at all, you know, and then the person, imagine, leaves. Then the person is going throughout the day, and among these bundle of thoughts that they have, you know, among all the thoughts of what self to decide to be in the next moment, the next moment, the next moment, you know, this endless self-reinventionism that's going on in every moment. The person can allow the language of that other person is gonna try to be a self in the system. It's like ignorance, cruel speech is like alongside from being dirty, it's like the person has to wash their soul after, you know what I mean? You know, it's like after the fight, it wasn't enough. You know, the warrior had to sit down in the battlefield and be like, holy shit, this messed up event just happened. Can you imagine we create this hypothetical story where we say this person found an audience with God. Let's say this person in a certain universe found an audience with God, and God came to them. And God was like, okay, do you have any questions? You know, and the person was like, God, why do you make the human being? Like, what is this? Why am I, like, what's the purpose of the human being? And there's this giant silence, and then the voice says, to be a human being. And the human being's like, what? But in all your books, you know, in all your messages, your DMs, in all your messages, it's as if we should seek beyond human. And God's like, no, you just need to be a human being. And if you can be a decent human being, you have a decent civilization. If you're indecent, well, you have an indecent civilization. It's like common sense. The type of energy you put into the moment suggests how the soul of the moment moved. The poet Rumi says, wherever you are, be the soul of that moment. That means if you're suffering, at least you have suffering. There's some beings in like the void who don't even have any personality. They're like, oh, I wish I had suffering. The point of suffering is to use it. Recycle your suffering into your dreams and ambitions. feel spirituality is coming to a round circle. We're gonna realize to be human is to be divine. It's divine. It's the most divine thing to be human. We thought divinity was beyond human. The human is the divine. You know, that means it's like, even if a person doesn't do anything, I'm here, you know, I'm here saying, you know, advanced civilization, you know, but, but honestly, really biologically, we just are here to experience the most current update of genetical existence. Beyond our body's purpose, then the mind's mysteries are based on the inner realms. And your inner realms could be completely different. I feel that we are all training. I feel every person that has been born is indirectly training. Training for what? For remembering the unknown. I often have moments where all my knowledge comes down to, why am I seeing this? I ask that. Or what have I not seen yet? It's like you can either move objects or you can move subjects. You can either destroy objects or you can destroy subjects. You can either create objects or you can destroy them. And it's all like different paint. It's literally like space is trying to be a person. And it's named itself, but then it has named itself in a way where it has forgotten how the person is being a presence before being a person. Anybody who remembers their presence, like this is something in yoga where it was so next level, okay? Where if I was to give it modern equivalent parallel, there was a scene in Rick and Morty, I think it was like that kind of Snake Terminator episode, where in that scene where Rick is suddenly changing, like he's changing his consciousness to different parallel senses of himself, and he goes into one parallel life, and in that parallel life he's on the verge of forgetting who he really was and being occupied by the imagery of that life, right? But then he's like, I feel like this isn't my life, you know, like there's that feeling, you know, as if I'm in the wrong room of my own being. So similar to that, I would say the yogis had this view where they're like, okay, you want to seek truth, first you gotta remember your divine memory, which means your inseparability with the universal cycle. That means this is really what really calms me down, because it's not that I'm oblivious to that people are hearing me, you know, I know that people hear this, but hear what I say, but it's just that it's like we're naming and touching this, trying to touch the sky, but the sky has touched us first. It's like before the person can be a god, God is being. You see the idea? From a theological lens, it's like man made an heir. It's a dissension. From the modern view, the secular view, it's like, no, it's like we were an ape, now look at what we're doing, this is only advancement. Right? That's really what I like about Western Enlightenment. The Western Enlightenment prioritized freedom over discipline, so its technologies advanced, but it didn't have the ability to maintain it, right? Like literally, it's this hilarious thing where the East and West, it's like the people need to change. It's if, can you imagine? Let me tell you what I mean by this. In the East, they prioritize discipline over freedom. You see this, right? Discipline was way more important than freedom, as if it was a sort of more stoic, right? In the East, life had more of a stoic significance. That means it's like your behavior was a path to truth. So discipline was crucial because your behavior led to the outcome of your outcome. But in the Western Enlightenment, people were trapped in inefficient leadership, so they had no choice but to seek freedom. You know, it's as if, for how long can we sit in the shadows of our own desire? At some point we'll snap out of it. Or teleport out of it. You know, if you're cool, you teleport. If you're not cool, you snap. You literally snap. Get angry. And I guess, what can we say? Like, we are an unknown viewer through a known body in a known world, but when we truly look at the world, the known world's edge is unknown. And the inner realm is unknown. Everything is unknown. We know life is more of an unknown certainty than a known certainty, rather than us being like, this is truth. It's like impossible. Truth is not a this, you know, in quotations. I want to read some quotes from a man named Papaji. Papaji, this yogi, he's also the disciple of Sri Ramana Maharshi and the disciple of Muji, who Muji is, you can find him on YouTube. Papaji says, whatever comes, let it come. Whatever stays, let it stay. Whatever goes, let it go. As if be free regardless. Papaji says, if there is peace in your mind, you will find peace with everybody. If your mind is agitated, you will find agitation everywhere. So first find peace within, and you will see this inner peace reflected everywhere else. You are this peace. Can you imagine, like, Papaji, this guru, enlightened guru, sitting, some guy's like, Papaji, I need peace, man. How can I attain peace? And Papaji's like, you are the peace. Like, what are you saying? What are you asking me? Look at yourself. Guys, Papaji, I'm being playful there. Papaji doesn't say that part, but... Papaji says, you are the unchangeable awareness in which all activity takes place. Bada bing, bada boom, this is it. Like, no greater quote can find today than this. Imagine the next quote is like... Anybody who understands this quote, I don't know what to tell you. But, it's not that you're enlightened, it's that the world was before we were. Papaji says that ocean of eternal peace is you. What is the difficulty that we suffer from? It is that we seek peace elsewhere and do not experience that we are peace incarnate itself. Look within. There's no difference between yourself, between yourself, self with a capital S, and guru. You are always free. There is no teacher, there is no student, there is no teaching. Papa G says when you stop thinking, you're no longer imagining things that are not true. Papa G says now is the time to have a direct introduction to this moment. This moment is free of time, of mind, of any notions. Introduce yourself to this moment. Papa G says let your will burn in this fire so that it takes you nowhere else. Let yourself be burned in this fire of eternity, love and peace. Don't be afraid of this fire. It is love itself. This desire for freedom is the fire of love. Papa G says detach yourself from those things which are not permanent and rest in that which is always permanent. Papa G says surrounded by nothingness you have to do nothing. You have to do nothing to be who you are. Nothing enough. And people wonder, how I prepare for these talks. That's it, guys. I prepare by being nothing. That's it. The moment you accept yourself, you can use your intelligence. The moment you reject yourself, you will never use it. Doesn't matter how many times you appear. Unless the rage of the roaring soul appears. It's like, what is life to you but just a film you're in, right? Papa G says, when you know that you are meditating, it is not meditation. That means those people who don't know what meditation is, who don't know or who don't care about how to meditate, they're in the most perfect meditation. And honestly, meditation is just study how your attention is happening. I mean, what can a person teach about like your eyes? They're yours. Papa G says, you have to simply become aware of the moment of the mind, which begins this endless trouble. Papa G says nobody wants to work, not even the breath wants to work. Papa G says if you see the illusion, you are enlightened, but if you think that you're enlightened, you're in the illusion. Yeah, because what victory in the void can you achieve? The void is it's like the unknown is I'll tell you, the unknown is superior. It's the most advanced word that our species has been able to come up with. That means I don't know who came up with the word known, like who we can ascribe it in history, that and of course it's a transformation and the concept is there before, but the word unknown or unknowledge, like when we fear the unknown, we fear our universal self. Papa G says, one is always free and one is always alone. The mind is only dreaming. Papa G says, lower the volume probably. Papa G says, if you identify with what comes and goes, you will be unhappy. If you identify with what is permanent and always there, you are happiness itself. And people are trying to find happiness. What a load of, unhappiness. Just roars of souls. We need the unknown souls to roar. And this doesn't mean violence. We have moved beyond the era of physical violence. Like when Gandhi and Martin Luther King spoke, that means just for my respect for their souls, I cannot. You see, it's like there's some ways human beings that have lived at the honor. I can't tell you how liberating honor is. Honor means that you care for what has happened so far. And if we can have a global care, imagine global care where, where, we care for the globe, The moment we become universal, we all are suffering of our personality fades. It's like as this person named Osho said, like melting snow, like melting snow in the morning sun. That's how you wake up to yourself. What was never you evaporates, and only what you have dared care to go through the moment and dare to keep the unknown and walk. You see, it's like that's the thing about the mystic. The mystic wasn't afraid of walking in the mist. That's the thing. That if the truth is unknown, perhaps the truth is the unknown. You see what I'm saying? That means the truth and known truth can never be truth. So man is just swimming and trying to hold on to whatever he finds in this ocean of information. I feel we just have to trust nature, like with 90% of the work. And that 10% where, let's say, the human activity is going on. It's like we're seeing the extraterrestrial is the terrestrial's imagination. Imagine the terrestrial is the extraterrestrial's imagination. It's like the moment I look at any sentence, it's as if endless ways of meaning that can be extracted from it. You can literally look at a word and see so many different angles to it. It's ridiculous how much imagery can move in different ways in the neurons. Papaji says, back to the code tunnel. Look here and know who you are. Instantly you will find freedom. And this suffering, hitchhiking from womb to womb, will instantly stop. The only way is to look within. Papaji says meditation is to effortlessly turn the mind toward that energy which energizes the mind. It's kind of like that moment before the person signs up for a Tai Chi course where they're like, oh my God, am I being energy right now? Is everything being energy right now? How can I not have energy in a world that's just energy? This is why the mind never runs out of power. The body does, though. The body is like this, advanced instrument where the person in every year of their life, they're holding it. They're holding this instrument in their hand and they're choosing to play in accordance to what kind of world they have seen to go live in and be a human being while we're human, Papaji says, keep quiet. Don't touch the thoughts. Let them be. Papaji says the way to live a happy, beautiful life is to accept whatever comes and not care about what does not come. Papaji says if you address the mind with who are you, it will disappear. Papaji says, what is the purpose of human life? To return home. Papaji says, understanding and not understanding are all in the scheme of ignorance. Just a realm of the mind. This is not learning. This is your birthright. You cannot study to be what you are. You do not need to understand in order to breathe. That means our being, it's like if there were any secrets to how we were being as a creature here, like that being is not something that it's exact. Papaji is saying it's like breathing. It's like there is no need for ideological justification to something that's just being, It's like a person can look at that tree and look at a tree and be like, I'm seeing a tree like outside my window right now. Like a person can look at a tree and be like, yo, this is a bad tree, or this is a good tree. Look at what a compassionate tree this is. But the tree is the tree. The tree is like, buddy, it's like you're in your own room. I'm just a tree, Papaji says, find where the ego rises from and it will disappear. Thoughts are impediments to seeing your own face. Don't give rise to any thought and discover who you are. That's it, guys. We got to just discover that we are not what we thought we were in a world where thoughts endlessly come and go. So if we're neither the object is temporary, neither the subject, what is viewing the being, the person blowing the birthday candle? We say my birthday, but what is that? Is eternity celebrating its temporal reference point? Like, what is it? I don't know if I read this, but I'm going to read it again in case. Papaji says, if you identify with what comes and goes, you will be unhappy. if you identify with what is permanent and always there, you are happiness itself. That means the person's looking for happiness, and the person's like, no way, happiness is the one looking. This whole time I've been looking for happiness, you know. Time is honestly just how we splash paint on the face of a changing world. Linguistic paint, you know. I would say poets can be said to be painters. Just painters that paint with language, honestly. Because there's a joy to it, guys. I'm telling you, there's honestly a joy when the person's mindset is not language based and is direct experience based, and usually the outcome of a direct experience is an image, is a realism. It's like a reality, right? So it's like the person can choose to learn from fingers pointing to reality. It's like that saying where when I point at the stars, don't look at my finger. It's like right now people, the way they're using their psychologies, I find just the common thing is they're using it by looking at the finger rather than looking at the stars. If the person just straight looks at the stars, if they go towards the unknown and the advance and they just attempt it just to see who they would be if they got through, you know. For me, honestly, like the motivation for these talks I'm giving, it's like, is it possible to give? It's like, is it possible for like, you know, I just want to know if I can even as a human being give this many talks, you know, just the wonder of that. It's like, regardless of anything anyone said, I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta know if this is possible or not. It's like, I can't be, you know, so there's something about, I don't know, having one lifetime to get to know what the truth of nature is all about. And having one lifetime where for the first time podcasting has become a thing, right? They're gonna be like if let's say thousands of years from now they were reading books about what was going on in 2020, they'd be like, our ancestors wielded this next level power that allowed them to teleport their voices to each other, you know. You know, and they could teleport everything they saw to one another manually though, and that's a mystery. Imagine thousands of years they're reading in ancient books about what went on now, right? And they don't know. We were just trying podcasting for once, you know. Yeah. So I'm saying it's as if like anything. It's like it could have been way more chill. All of mythology could have been super chill. You know, usually mythology comes from poets. I mean, that's something that's pretty known. Like Greek mythology comes from a poet. I don't know if his name was Heliod. I don't know. I try to guess actually. To be a human being is to be aware of how the human activity is happening. And once the person is conscious of their own activity, then they can learn from others. If the person is still seeking self-enlightenment, it's as if you don't need the world now. You need just yourself now. And even though Papaji says like go into that unchanging place, the whole idea is until the person realizes this is not this world, the body is a guest in the mind's house. So the body's destiny is how the mind, the host of this mind, chooses to pilot. For me, I see that we're honestly all like attention moving in the space-time continuum, right? Piloting through the space-time continuum, and so it's as if just there's no evil and good. There's just beings that have piloted into just those uncharted territories of sometimes unnecessary intensity, or you know, maybe it was necessary. Who knows? You know, there's so many things. It's as if like it's like when you want to blame an individual in a society, how can you not blame the society? And if you're going to blame the society, how are you going to not blame the world, the planet? And if you're going to blame the planet, how can you not blame the solar system? If you can't blame the solar system, you know what I mean? It just keeps going. This endless regression of whose responsibility was it, you know? And it's like, is this God's fault or is this man's fault? Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of religious people are confused right now. They're like, okay, did I make a mistake or did God make a mistake? If God created me, how can I make a mistake? You know, if I created God, then I made a mistake. You know, so you see, it could be something like that. So in the future, we should just, I don't know, just be multidimensionally tolerant. And guys, I'm gonna read a random page from the Bhagavad Gita. It's just here. Let's see, and I'm gonna end it off after. So thanks for listening, whoever's listened. Go forth into the unknown. It is our birthright to know that we don't know, that we can know, and know that we don't know. It's just when you get to the unknown that it's all potential. Alright, there we go. So this is pretty much, the Bhagavad Gita is God talking to an archer on a battlefield named Arjuna, and God's having a conversation with this human being. Krishna is having a conversation with Arjuna. Krishna says, when the discerning person sees no one as doer other than the three gunas and realizes me, the Supreme Spirit standing entirely beyond these gunas, he enters into my being. Having transcended the aforesaid three gunas which have caused the body and freed from birth, death, old age, and all kinds of sorrow, the embodied soul attains supreme bliss. Arjuna said, what are the marks of him who has risen above the three gunas, and what is his conduct, and how, Lord, does he rise above the three gunas? So pretty much God is saying, like, okay, this is how the soul attains supreme bliss, and Arjuna's like, yo, tell me how, you know. Krishna says, Arjuna, he who abhors not illumination which is born of sattva, and activity which is born of rajas, and even stupor which is born of tamas, when prevalent, nor longs for them when they have ceased. He who, sitting like a witness, is not disturbed by the gunas, and who, knowing that the gunas alone move among the gunas. Okay, guys, let me see, what is this? Oh, okay, there we go. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So three modes. These three modes of being. So in these three modes of being, earlier it says these three gunas born of nature tie down the imperishable soul to the body. That means the Sattva, Raja, Tamas, these types of nature, these ways of being, they tie down the imperishable soul to the body, pretty much. Right? So, where I was reading from, excuse me. So I'll read it again. Arjuna's like, yo, tell me how we get enlightened from this. Okay. Krishna says, Arjuna, he who abhors not illumination, I'm reading it again, which is born of sattva, and activity which is born of rajas, and even stupor which is born of tamas, when prevalent nor longs for them when they have ceased, He who sitting like a witness is not disturbed by the gunas, and who knowing that the gunas alone move among the gunas, remains established in identity with God and never falls off from that state. He who is ever established in the self, takes pain and pleasure alike, regards a clod of earth, a stone and a piece of gold as equal in value, is possessed of wisdom, accepts the pleasant as well as the unpleasant in the same spirit, and views censure and praise alike. He who is equipoised in honor or ignominy is alike towards a friend or an enemy, and has renounced the sense of doership in all undertakings, is said to have risen above the three gunas. He too who constantly worships me through the yoga of exclusive devotion, transcending these three gunas, he becomes eligible for attaining Brahma. Oh, okay, so then you become eligible. Who knew? For I am the substratum of the imperishable Brahma, of immortality or the eternal Dharma, and of unending immutable bliss. That means it's like, we're like, why is there suffering in the world? And we're like, okay, so if in this universe there's so many different kinds of phenomena, if there is one side of the coin which is suffering, there has to be a universe where it's the other side of the coin, where beings are just completely enjoying and suffering is their enlightenment. They're like, no way, we could suffer? Oh my God, this is the most enlightening thing. Can you imagine the opposite of our algorithm that we're implementing right now as a species? So here he's saying, God is telling Arjuna, it's as if you have noticed the real in a way where there is no longer a relationship in the experience advancing. That means this is where experience there's no longer growth anymore. That means here's the thing, there is no longer learning for the potential of eyes of the eternal. There's many ways we can look at the world. Ultimately, it's a division between the known and the unknown. So any method we're using, we're first looking at the known variables and the unknown variables. The more unknown variables there are in the system, the less reason you can have, the more you have to just have faith of the potential of the known variables you know, right? Or explore into the unknown. Just have faith in the unknown and just go see what the, like literally as if you're a person with a lantern you found an ancient library and you've just gone in to go see what the books are, you know what I mean? Like that kind of audacity, you know. And really advancement, it comes from within. Galileo has this quote where he says, you can't teach anyone anything. You can only make them realize it from within themselves. That's it. That means there has been never, like, I don't exist, no, like, here's the thing, I exist to every person listening to me, not in accordance to your past. That means the language I'm using is based on you interpreting, just like how, again, a book can be read a different way. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening, and I think I need to go, I don't know, I think this cat in the picture is thirsty. I need to go, assist the civilization. Thanks for listening, guys. No, what's that? Oh, there's a question. Oh, okay, the question is, okay. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. That was